In the 24th hadith, reason it's not allowing me to pull it up on the screen. It is on the authority of Abu Dharr al-Ghifari that the Prophet ﷺ is that among the sayings he relates from his Lord. And when he starts out saying that this is one of the things that he relates from his Lord, what we recognize is that this is a hadith al-Qudsi. And a hadith al-Qudsi means that it is, the meaning is from Allah, but the words are from the Prophet ﷺ. So when we understand that the meaning is from Allah, but the words are from the Prophet ﷺ, meaning that it cannot be, this is a conversation between the Messenger of Allah والسلام, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That however, it is not a relationship where Allah ta'ala is giving the words exactly. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the one who's giving the words exactly, but the meaning is that which is conveyed by Allah. So it cannot be recited in prayer, it cannot be recited in salah, even though the meaning is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, among the sayings that he relates from his Lord is that he said, "O my servants, I have forbidden oppression for myself, and I have made it forbidden amongst you. So do not oppress one another. O my servants, all of you are astray except those I have guided. So seek guidance of me, and I shall guide you. O my servants, all of you are hungry except for those I have fed. So seek food of me, and I shall feed you. O my servants, all of you are naked except those I have clothed. So seek clothing of me, and I shall clothe you. O my servants, you sin by night and by day, and I forgive all sins. So seek forgiveness of me, and I shall forgive you. O my servants, you will not attain harming me, so as to harm me, and you will not attain benefiting me, so as to benefit me. O my servants, will the first of you and the last of you, the human of you and the jinn of you, to become as pious as the most pious heart of any man of you, that would not increase my kingdom in anything. O my servants, were the first of you and the last of you, the human of you and the jinn of you, to become as wicked as the most wicked heart of any one man of you, that would not decrease my kingdom in anything. O my servants, were the first of you and the last of you, the human of you and the jinn of you, to rise up in one place and make a request of me, and I were to give everyone what he requested, that would not decrease what I have, any more than a needle decreases the sea if put into it. O my servants, if but your deeds that I reckon upon you and then recompense you for, so let him who finds good praise Allah, and let him who finds other than that blame no one but himself. SubhanAllah, immediately there's something that we begin to recognize in this particular narration. And it is said on those who related this particular narration that never did Allah Ta'ala compile this many "O my servants" inside of one narration. When he says, "Ya ibadati," right? So when Allah Ta'ala is saying, "Ya ibadati," this is something that, number one, he's speaking to all of us. There are two types of servants inside of this particular narration. There are what we call Ummat Dawah and Ummat Ijaba. Ummat Dawah is the community, the Ummah, the broader community for those who have given Dawah, those who have been called to the message. And in this particular case, this is for all of humanity, all of mankind, all, as he says, mankind and jinn. Why is Allah Ta'ala calling them my servants if he's not just speaking to the Muslims? And we'll get to that. Because as is mentioned in this particular narration, all of those basically come to Allah. The ones that are all in need of Allah. They come to him in needing what he has created, needing his sustenance, needing his generosity, needing his mercy. We come as, we know that we come into this world as babies, completely dependent upon others. Completely dependent upon someone to feed us, to clothe us, to take care of us. And through this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is literally teaching us, do you know how small you are? Do you know that if it wasn't Allah who sent someone to take care of you, that you would not be taken care of? Subhanallah. And he begins to detail this for us. But in this, what he's literally calling us to is from the beginning, he's drawing us into a conversation. And there's this kind of conversation that he is it's literally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expressing his mercy to all of creation from the very beginning. When he says, oh my servant, meaning that you're the one that I created. You're the one that I take care of. We don't take care of Allah. Allah ta'ala takes care of us. And so from the beginning, he tells us something though, even in saying, you are my servant, right? But look, even as I know that I am your Lord and the one who created you, I have forbidden, right? I have forbidden oppression for myself, meaning I will not be amongst those. Someone has nothing better to do with their life. May Allah guide them. May Allah guide them. So I'm removing that, inshallah. Forgive me for that. Going back to the beginning, inshallah, I think there's a co-host also online, so I'll continue with the narration. So in the beginning, when Allah says that he has forbidden oppression for himself, when I came upon that this would be the hadith for this week, I started to just smile, right? Literally just dance inside myself and say, wow, Allah, you are so amazing that you would talk about how you have forbidden oppression for yourself. And he is in a position that if any oppression were to be done, that he has the power and the ability to do it. But Allah Ta'ala is saying, I've made it forbidden for myself, meaning that I will never oppress you. This is what Allah is saying, that even as you are my servant, even as you are in need of me, even as you are a weak creature, still I would absolutely not, right, oppress you. So if Allah is saying, I have forbidden it for myself, then you know that oppression is forbidden for you. Why? Because you are the servants of Allah. Whether when a person accepts their servitude to Allah or they don't, they are still in need of Allah's air to breathe, His water to drink, His food to eat. They are still in need of Allah to clothe them, to shelter them, to take care of them. They are still in need of Allah to exist. Right? SubhanAllah. And so, as if Allah is saying that you yourself are created, how dare you make yourself above another human being? How dare you make yourself above someone else? Meaning that you don't, that level of arrogance, you're not even worthy of that level of deference. This is what Allah Ta'ala is telling us from the very beginning, right? And He's also telling us something really important. He's saying, be careful about blaming Allah for the sins of other people. Be careful about blaming Allah for the evil that other people commit. Because Allah Ta'ala has given the human beings free will. And with that free will on this earth, He has given them the opportunity to be able to do good or to commit evil. Meaning that it's up to you. That if you choose to commit good, then you will be blessed. But if you choose to commit evil, that is from your own self. That is from your own actions, your own heart. Right? And the mercy and generosity of Allah is He has given you, He's given you free reign. Right? He's not controlling your every move. He's not controlling your every step. And this, subhanAllah, is something that is beneficial to humanity, right? Because there are people who choose to use use their free will for good, for goodness, for righteousness, for charity, for assistance, to educate, to help others, to be a healthcare worker, to be a healer. People have used their free will to do wonderful and magnificent kindness. And there are those who choose to use their free will for abhorrent evil. And so what we have to be aware is that when we look at, well, then how come oppression exists? If Allah has forbidden oppression for Himself, then how come oppression exists in the world? And it's simply because Allah has given every human being free will. And that this, even though He's the creator of the world, we are the ones who run it in terms of the laws, in terms of actions that we commit. And so we have to be held accountable right, for that. And never blame Allah for what other people do with their free will. This is the first aspect of the hadith. Then, in it, I'm not even sure I can still, let's see if I can still share it. We'll see. Bismillah. So some of our first takeaway lessons is that inside of the narration, it says Allah is the one who guides, right? Allah is the one who guides people. Our job is to deliver the clear message and seek knowledge. So in understanding, right, when Allah in this particular narration, and I want to go back, I'm actually concerned about being able to go back. I'm not sure if that person has drawn something on my screen. So Allah then says, "O my servants, all of you are astray except for those I have guided. So seek guidance of me and I shall guide you." What does Allah Ta'ala say? Meaning that guidance is available for you. That if a person wants to be guided, if a person wants faith, if they want righteousness, if they want goodness, Allah is so generous that I will give it to you. Right? That the reason I created you so that you would worship, and what is the purpose of that worship? Allah, so that you may know, so that you would have ma'rifah. Right? So that you would be a person who knows. And so by being a person who knows that the possibility of contentment, the possibility of true happiness that is eternal, that is long lasting in this life and the hereafter, the possibility of knowing who you are and knowing the but if you choose to be a person in darkness, if you choose to be a person who is astray, if you literally, Allah is saying, if you want me, I'm here for you. But if you didn't want me, then I would allow you to continue to go upon a path that leads you to be lost and that would lead you astray. Not that Allah Ta'ala is the one who initiated, and this is what we have to understand. This is for someone, the one that Allah allows to be astray, or the one Allah allows to be guided into darkness is the one who was seeking the darkness from the beginning. The one who brought them and what's called a disbelief, covering up the truth upon themselves. Right? So Allah is saying, you have a responsibility that if you want Allah, Allah is saying, seek me out. Right? Seek me out. You have some effort. You put forth, right, some effort, and Allah Ta'ala will guide you. And in this, what we begin to understand is that there are two types of guidance. There is, number one of the types of guidance is a guidance that comes, right, that teaches right from wrong. This is one aspect of guidance. Another aspect of guidance, of course, is a guidance to Allah, right? And then there's a guidance that teaches, that is internal, right? And like a guidance of the heart. And so this guidance of the heart is actually from Allah, right? This guidance from the heart is from Allah. And this is not the one that he's speaking of, because this is an internal, this is the one that he's speaking of, because this is an internal aspect, right? That if a person is seeking understanding between right and wrong, Allah Ta'ala would guide them towards, Allah Ta'ala would allow them to see what is right from what is wrong. But this deep internal guidance towards faith, that if they, and I want to help us understand, Allah has created everyone upon fitrah. And fitrah is that primordial state that according to Islam and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that what we teach is that the human being is born pure, that the human being is inclined towards goodness. The human being is inclined toward belief in Allah, recognizing that there is a supreme power outside of themselves. And they are inclined to believe in that. They are inclined towards goodness and righteousness. However, it is the things of this world, people of this world, that allows that they choose to follow, that then misguides them or causes them to be astray. And so what we understand, for example, in the case of Salman al-Farisi, which is a great example of this. Salman al-Farisi was someone who was a fire worshipper, right? And in the distance of hearing someone praying, he began to seek out what is that, right? And then this led him to a priest, who then this led him from one priest to another, and eventually in each one of these priests, they would guide him to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'm giving the short version of Salman al-Farisi that is a lesson in and of itself. But why was Salman al-Farisi, why did he become one of the greatest companions or disciples of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings of Allah on him? Because he was seeking knowledge, right? But even though he had been trained and taught to be a fire worshipper, there are signs that Allah gives everyone inside their own lives. Allah says, I shall show you signs in the universe and inside your own self. And why does he give you a sign? Because he wants you to be guided. Right? And so Salman al-Farisi is an excellent example of someone who saw the signs inside the universe and inside themselves. And when he saw this, he followed it. He said, this is guiding towards righteousness and I want righteousness. This is guiding toward truth and I want truth. And this ultimately took him from being a fire worshiper, then to being a Christian, then to being guided to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so, again, Allah Ta'ala is demonstrating through this that if you want internal guidance, if you want that internal guidance, you shall be guided. If you're seeking Allah, Allah wants it. Subhanallah. Then I want to go to this last aspect of the narration, just in general. Allah is the one in charge and thereby worthy of submission. Throughout this narration, Allah Ta'ala goes and He says, you know, "O my servants," which just is so beautiful. "O my servants, all of you are hungry, except those I have fed. So seek food of me, and I shall feed you. O my servants, all of you are naked, except those I have clothed. So seek clothing of me, and I shall clothe you. O my servants, you sin by night and by day, and I forgive all sins. So forgiveness is of me, and I shall forgive you. So seek forgiveness of me, and I shall forgive you." In this moment, what Allah is saying is that there's no one who feeds you except me, right? And if Allah Ta'ala were to cause the drought to come, right, or cause the earth to stop giving fruit, if He were to cause the animals to die, who would feed you other than Allah? Right? And this is detailed in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, in chapter 56 of the Quran, that Allah gives reminders. If He were to turn the water all to salt water, how long would you have drink? If He were to send a drought upon the land, who could give you rain? And this happens, right? There are times, even we know in California, even in Australia this year, there were raging fires, right? Unless Allah sends something in order to stop that fire. If He were to scorch the earth, right, who then would stop it except Allah? And so in this moment, He's showing us our power. And the lesson that we take away from this is how humbly submissive we should be, how obedient we should be, how grateful we should be, right? And He's saying, "Seek of me, I shall give you." Not saying, "Seek of me," and that's it. He's saying, "If you seek of me, I shall give it to you." And this entire portion of this narration can be summed up in Surah Luqman, where Luqman is advising his son, right, that if you seek help of Allah, if you're seeking help, seek help of Allah, right? Seek it from Allah. Because by doing that, then you're guided to the greatest of truth, even inside of that. And then Allah tells us something so beautiful. He says, if you need forgiveness, if you're in need of forgiveness, then what is forgiveness from Allah? Forgiveness from Allah is redemption. Forgiveness from Allah can be two things. Number one, that He would relieve you of the suffering of your ill deeds. That He would relieve you of the hardship and the burden that you feel when you owe your own self, right? That He would relieve you of that burden. And then redemption, that He would redeem you from the stain and the harm of that sin. Subhanallah. And then there's another type of forgiveness from Allah. This is that He will remove it from your record, right? As if you didn't commit it. He wouldn't call you to account for it, right? That He would erase it for you. Subhanallah. How generous and merciful is Allah. So He says, seek my forgiveness, I will give it to you. Throughout this narration, He's just reminding us, subhanAllah, of His deep generosity. Then, if we to go to what are the takeaways, right? What are the Iman boosters? What should strengthen our faith during this particular time? Alhamdulillah, Allah has chosen gentleness with His servants. Praise be to Allah that even despite our weaknesses, our dhulm, our oppression upon others, even despite the harm that we bring to others, Allah says, I won't oppress you. Right? Allah, I will still feed you. Even people who don't believe in Allah, right? But they go out seeking wealth, seeking food, Allah will give them. SubhanAllah. That means, alhamdulillah, how gentle and great and merciful is Allah, right? How generous is Allah that He's chosen gentleness for His servants. Those who have answered the call to obey Him, to come to Him, and those who haven't, those who are even in ghafla, that Allah has even chose gentleness for them in this world. And then alhamdulillah, for me this is one of the greatest ones, that Allah claims us. That by even saying, right, that Allah says, oh my servant, right? I don't know about you, but I want the full manifestation of what that means. Not just by default, not just because, a person is too arrogant to recognize that it's Allah who's taking care of them. That they're too arrogant to recognize that they need Allah to breathe, to exist, right? But I want to take it to be Muslim is to say that I submit to you, oh Allah, willingly. That I take my free will, right? And I use my free will to choose to serve you, to choose to know, to choose to be happy, to choose spiritual liberation, to choose goodness, to choose, right? To be righteous. That is a choice, subhanAllah. And so the fact that Allah Ta'ala would claim us, this in and of itself, subhanAllah, is that we want to take full advantage of this particular claim. And then, alhamdulillah, Allah is in charge. For me, I look at that and say, I'm so grateful Allah is in charge, because if we were to look at just the past, not just the events of the past 2 weeks, because we know the case of Manuel Ellis, the case of Yahya in Louisville, Kentucky. We know the case of the one who was killed in Louisiana, and of course the case of George Floyd, and the tens of thousands of others who were killed before that. That if it were up to human beings, they would choose oppression. That if it were up to many human beings, and they were in charge to feed others, they may choose to be stingy and only feed themselves. And we know this, right? We know that part of why poverty exists in the world is because of people's greed. Because people have worked very diligently in order to make sure that there are some who have and those who have not. To make sure that there are some who have plenty and those who have very little. That alhamdulillah, Allah is the one who's in charge. That He has chosen forgiveness, because we know, subhanAllah, there are many times in our life that if somebody wrongs us, difficult for us to forgive. Let alone choose redemption, for that person to not be held accountable. That is considered more even sometimes about the smallest of things, not the biggest of things. I remember in the 90s that there was this big, basically problem in DC where someone stepped on someone's tennis shoes. Right? If you stepped on their tennis shoes or their kicks, that you could be killed. Your life could be taken. That's how short people's tempers were. And we know that people kill for a lot less. That people kill sometimes people have not done any wrong. They kill them simply for the color of their skin, simply for the fact that they exist. And I just don't like you. I just hate you because you exist. So praise be to Allah that He is not that one, showing us His greatness, showing us His gentleness, showing us that He is actually one worthy to be worshipped, right? And that for our mistakes and our shortcomings, that His door for forgiveness is open and open wide, subhanAllah. So to close out with the finality of this particular narration, that Allah Ta'ala is reminding us of His divine decree. And He's reminding us, of course, of His omnipotent power. Saying, if you were all to gather together, right, and do something great and wonderful, it wouldn't increase His kingdom. Right? It wouldn't increase His kingdom. Right? And of course, our teachers and our scholars who actually teach us about this hadith, saying it would be the equivalent that if you were to take a handful from the ocean, you wouldn't decrease it. If you were to spit into the ocean, it wouldn't increase it. Right? So our small deeds, even though they may seem large to us in humanity, right? But they don't increase Allah's kingdom. They don't increase His greatness. Why? Because even our good qualities is from that which He created us to be. That He is the owner of those qualities. That we can be generous because Allah is Kareem. That we can be generous because that we can be knowledgeable because Allah Alim. That we can be merciful because Allah Rahman. That we can be, also because Allah Latif. We could be victorious because Allah Al-Aziz. That we could be great because Allah Al-Azim. That even in doing this, we are merely reflecting the great qualities of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because we must admit, you didn't create yourself. And if all of human beings were to gather together and trying to create one human being without his DNA, without his cells, without his stem cells, you wouldn't be able to do it. SubhanAllah. Right? That ultimately, and if we could do it, we would bring life back to our dead relatives, and we know it. If we had the power of life, we would quickly bring back, right, those who passed away. But Allah Ta'ala is showing us. So you don't increase His kingdom in the slightest. And if you were to come together and create the most wicked of wicked, if you were to do the most wicked of things, you don't decrease His kingdom in the slightest. He's still the most gracious. He's still the most merciful. He's still the most compassionate. Right? And His Jannah is still spacious and wide. And it doesn't decrease His pardon, His forgiveness. It doesn't decrease His kingdom in the slightest. Any more than if you were to take a needle from the ocean, would you decrease it? No, you only took water from the water He gave you. Subhanallah. And when it evaporates and the clouds come get it, they're going to send it back to the ocean. Subhanallah. So there is no decreasing. Allah Ta'ala, praise be to Allah who's shown us signs in the universe and in our own selves. May Allah Ta'ala forever bless us to be able to extract knowledge from the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam and apply it to our own lives, by which we're able to recognize Allah's absolute greatness and our absolute need of Him. Jazakumullah al-khair. May Allah bless you and reward you this day of Jummah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.